Maya never imagined that a simple trip to the grocery store could change her life. On this ordinary day, she was picking up milk for her daughter. But when she turned to return it, something much deeper was at play. Why would she return milk she could barely afford? This seemingly small act revealed the hidden struggles of those often overlooked by society. As she walked out of the store, she had no idea that someone was watching her, someone who would do the unthinkable. What happened next will leave you speechless. Watch till the end to find out. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Maya's life had always been a struggle. A single mother working 2 jobs, she lived in a small apartment with her daughter, Emily. Maya's days were spent juggling long hours at a diner and at a convenience store to keep the lights on and put food on the table. It was a constant cycle of work, exhaustion, and sacrifice. She rarely had time for herself, but she didn't mind. Her daughter was her world. That afternoon, Maya found herself at the local grocery store, the same one she visited every week. Milk for Emily, some bread, maybe a few canned goods. She could never afford much more, but it was enough. Or so she thought. As she reached the counter, she was struck with the realization that her card wouldn't cover the cost of everything. She had just enough for the milk and bread, but the rest? It had to wait. This wasn't just about groceries. It was about her life, her survival. Maya paid for the milk and bread, but as she left the store, she couldn't shake the feeling of shame creeping up on her. She had barely managed to scrape by, and now she was holding just enough to get her daughter through the week. As she walked to the bus stop, she felt a presence behind her. The footsteps were deliberate, heavy, almost as if someone was following her. Maya quickened her pace, glancing over her shoulder to see a man in a sharp suit. He was tall, well-dressed, exuding an air of wealth and confidence. His gaze was fixed on her, and though they were strangers, Maya felt a strange sense of discomfort. What did he want? Was he just another person going about his day, or was there something more to this moment? She tried to ignore him, but he followed her, his pace steady, until they reached the bus stop. The tension in the air was palpable. Maya felt exposed, her world shrinking as this stranger approached her. Without saying a word, the man stopped beside her. For a brief moment, their eyes met. He didn't speak at first, just stood there observing her. And then he said, "Is everything all right?" His tone was calm, almost rehearsed, as if he were accustomed to asking questions like these. Maya's heart raced. "Yes, just fine," she muttered, not knowing how to respond to this unexpected intrusion. But deep down, she knew something was wrong. She was starting to feel the weight of her reality, how invisible she was, how unnoticed her struggles had become. And now, this man, this stranger, was standing in her path. The man's eyes narrowed, and his gaze swept over Maya's tired face. "You know, people like you don't really belong here," he said, his voice suddenly colder, more dismissive. Maya felt the words strike her deep in her chest. What was he trying to say? Was it about the milk she had just purchased? About the way she looked? Her cheeks flushed with humiliation, and she stood frozen, unsure of what to say or do. However, the man then did something that caught her completely off guard. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a thick stack of bills. Without a second thought, he handed the money to the cashier behind the counter in the store. "Take care of this for her," he said, his voice filled with authority. Maya's heart skipped a beat. Was this some charity? A handout disguised as kindness? She stood there, stunned, not knowing how to process what was happening. The man, who had just belittled her, was now offering her something more than money. He was offering her a moment of recognition, a moment where, for once, someone had acknowledged her. Maya took the money, her hands trembling. She couldn't believe what had just transpired. The man had humiliated her, but in the same breath, he had offered her a lifeline. As she left the store, she couldn't help but reflect on the moment. Yes, the man had been cruel, but his actions had sparked something inside her. A recognition that maybe, just maybe, the world didn't have to be this way. As she walked home, holding her daughter's favorite milk, Maya realized that this was more than just a random act of kindness. It was a reminder that people like her, struggling, working, and fighting every day, were not invisible. They deserved to be seen. The man may have handed her money, but in return, Maya had regained a sense of dignity. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was finally being acknowledged. But the question remained. How many more people like Maya were out there, unnoticed and unheard? How long would it take before the world finally saw them? How many more stories like this will it take before we realize that equality is about more than just a seat at the table? Tell me where you are watching from. Take care.